What's going on, everybody? C4 here, and today we're continuing with our 32-team 7-round mock draft. And today, as of the 25th, we're looking at the team that holds the 24th pick in the first round, and that is the Carolina Panthers. While some drama is brewing up on my Twitter, at PapaXC4, last year, everyone knows the drama between myself and future Green Bay Packer running back Aaron Jones. And it looks like there may be a little controversy heating up between myself and linebacking prospect Darius Leonard. Underrated small school prospect who I talk shit about on Twitter, and he liked my tweet. Aaron Jones 2.0. Let's see where Darius Leonard goes. Anyways, talking about the Carolina Panthers, we need to talk about what they did via free agency before we jump into the mock draft to see kind of how we laid out our framework. And looking at the Panthers here today, I think we could probably say, you know, in terms of what they lost is a little bit greater than what they gained, but they made some moves. So looking at what they gained, they're able to re-sign Graham Gano, who's been one of the better kickers in the NFL over the last couple seasons. They got Torrey Smith in a trade with the Philadelphia Eagles. You know, capable, deep threat, inconsistent hands, but played well for us in the playoffs. They brought back Julius Peppers, ageless wonder, one of the greatest defensive ends in NFL history. They brought in Denoris Searcy, a depth safety moves. Don't know how much. How high you view him as a starter, but he's a capable, strong safety. Ross Cockrell came in, nickel corner from the New York Giants. You know, serviceable starter as well. And the big get was Dontari Poe coming over from the Atlanta Falcons. Really good season last year. The one thing though about them keeping to toss money at the D tackle spot, like didn't they use like a first-round pick on Vernon Butler? Is he not good enough? Like, you know, I feel like he would be the guy that you would assume would play next to K1 Short, but yet they give out Dontari Poe like a $30 million contract. I don't know. Although they lost, they moved on from old man, probably Panther legend Charles Johnson. Kurt Coleman's no longer there. Jonathan Stewart's no longer there. Daryl Worley went to the Philadelphia Eagles in the trade for Torrey Smith. Star Lotulelei got paid a massive contract, pretty outrageous in my opinion, by the Buffalo Bills. And Andrew Norwell, who debatably was the best free agent in terms of talent, not, you know, regardless of position, got a big old contract from the Jacksonville Jaguars because, you know, it wouldn't be an offseason with the Jaguars signing the biggest free agent they possibly could. So that being their, you know, big notables. I think they had Jarius Wright too from the Vikings. He was all right for them, a little flashy here and there. How is I going to set up our mock draft? Well, I'll tell you, good mock draft. I really do like, you know, from top to bottom, they're adding a bunch of players. Most of these guys here are actually kind of well known too, so there's not a lot of off the radar players. So without further ado, jumping into the first round, pick 24, I was selecting cornerback Isaiah Oliver from the University of Colorado. Great athlete. When you get Isaiah Oliver, you're getting like more. I'm pretty sure he was like a track guy for the most part before, like in high school and stuff like that. So he's a great athlete, tested well at the combine, long rangey. And when you look at the defense here for the Panthers, you have James Bradbury, who was a second-round pick in 2016, capable starter. You assume you're gonna have Captain Marlin, Ross Cockrell battle it out for the other outside job. But other than that, man, they just have a bunch of guys: Seymour, Ladarius Gunter, Corn Elder, Zach Sand. It's just a bunch of guys. A guy like Isaiah Oliver for me could come in, has the right type of camp, could emerge as the rookie starter, oppose James Bradbury. And when you go up against Julio Jones, you don't always want to go with a rookie, but worst case scenario, you get a rookie that's long enough to battle with them in the air and fast enough to match up with the deep speed that Julio brings. So I think Isaiah Oliver would be a very good fit here at pick 24. Going to the second round, pick 55, I was selecting free safety Jesse Bates from Wake Forest. Honestly, I think he could be the starting free safety for the team. He's one of my favorite players in this year's draft class. If I was listening to the top 10 players like that I think will be really, really good that not enough people are talking about, Jesse Bates is at the top of my list. I was really, really surprised he declared. I think he was a redshirt sophomore. I thought next year he was going to be more so that. I think if he waited and went out next year, he'd be a easy first-round pick. But because he came out a little bit earlier, you know, not as refined as he would have been, I think he will be sitting here in the second round and going back-to-back in the secondary. I think the Panthers secondary is probably their most glaring hole. I think their secondary and, you know, you have like the Panther fans saying secondary, wide receivers, and offensive line. Those are the three spots I think that a lot of fans want them to go. And we're doubling up here in the secondary and getting Isaiah Oliver and Jesse Bates. I have a gut feeling that both these guys are going to be starters and starters for a long time in the league. So very good picks for Ron Rivera to work with. Going to the third round at pick 85, I'm selecting deep threat wide receiver KEKE from Texas Tech. I think he could come in right away, be wide receiver 3 on the outside. You know, he's kind of, you know, similar skill set to Torrey Smith, but obviously where Torrey Smith is very much at the end of his career, probably is on a one-year rental with Carolina. He has like a one-year $5 million deal. You know, I think that there may be, you know, Russell Shepard. You got speed there. You got Curtis Samuel's kind of like the offensive weapon. Maybe work him in the slot or something like that. But I think ultimately a guy like KEKE today, best wide receiver still here in the third round. Deep threat for Cam Newton. When you look at Cam Newton, ultimately, intermediate's always going to be going to Greg Olsen for the time being. I mean, we don't know how much longer he has left in the NFL. He's already looking at, like, broadcasting jobs and stuff like that. So, time may be nearing here for Greg Olsen. We'll talk about the tight end position here in a couple picks. But ultimately, you go and get players that suit Cam Newton's strengths. And like I said, assuming that second-round pick Curtis Samuel is going to emerge as that slot, gadget-type player, and you have Funches as your big-bodied, then you get the complement in that. And Torrey Smith, long-term as a deep threat, is not the guy. KEKE, COUTEE, whoever, will be. Going to their second, third-round pick at pick 88, Iowa selecting one of the biggest athletic freaks in the draft class, and that is defensive end Josh Sweat from Florida State. I think looking at their roster right now, maybe could compete for defensive end 3, but I think more so he's defensive end 4. And knowing that, you know, Mary Addison's old, Julius Peppers is really old, the future at the defensive end spot, you know, might not necessarily be there. They kind of have a year-to-year kind of deal here. I think Addison's 30, maybe 30, between 29 and 31. And we all know Julius Peppers is just, you know, 1-year rental. He's a freak. So looking beyond that, I mean, you got Wes Horton, Deshaun Hall, and Brian Cox. Those guys there are, I think, rotational guys at best. But when you get a guy like Josh Sweat, who could be a rotational guy as a rookie with an incredibly high ceiling as he gets to develop, adds on a little bit more weight. He's such an explosive athlete. Doesn't have a whole lot of playing time at Florida State. Had some injuries and stuff like that. But I do remember when he was coming to high school like a 5-star. He must have been a 5-star recruit. And, you know, he saw him at the Combine, man, putting up absolutely freakish numbers. I think him and Lorenzo Carter, the linebacker, edge rusher, whatever you want to call him, from Georgia, probably improved their draft stock the most for edge rushers by just going, wow, I knew they were good athletes, but that good athlete? So I think Josh Sweat definitely has played himself in a third-round consideration and should be a guy in play here for the Carolina Panthers that need to add some youth at the defensive end spot. Moving to the 5th round of pick 161, Iowa selecting running back KALEN Ballage from Arizona State. I think right now coming in, he could be long-term the 1-2 punch with Christian McCaffrey that they had with Jonathan Stewart, because ultimately Fozzie Whitaker's a receiving back that's going to get phased out because that's what McCaffrey does. I think Cameron Artis-Pade's a little bit underrated, but ultimately, you know, are they going to pay him when it comes time for him to be a free agent, or will they just have a guy like KALEN Ballage who's a similar style back just take over that role? And I think Ballage has a little bit higher ceiling than Artis-Pade. I think Artis-Pade's more so your bigger, bulkier back that, you know, you can bring in time and time again. You won't be absolutely, you know, upset and shocked if McCaffrey goes down. Like, Artis-Pade can do the job, but I think a guy like KALEN Ballage can do a better job long term. And plus the fact that he's a bigger back, like 230 pounds, ran a very impressive 40-yard dash time, a better athlete than Cameron Artis-Pade. I think that gives him the edge here. So long term, if you're trying to look to find that pairing with Christian McCaffrey to get that balance that they had a little bit with Jonathan Stewart, I think Ballage here in the 5th round is a very nice pick to add that balance to the backfield. Going to the 6th round pick, 197, I was selecting tight end Troy Fumagalli from Wisconsin. Really, really good tight end. Limited athlete, but I think ultimately what you need for your tight end, he can do it all. He can chip block because he's a bigger body, not the best run blocker, but I think he's not a liability there. He can get better, he can improve. He's not going to be thrown to the wolves because they do have Greg Olsen there. But in terms of a guy that can just move the chains, can be a little bit of a safety net, good hands, solid route running, I think he, you know, ticks off all those boxes. In the 6th round, might be a little bit of a stretch. He could go anywhere between the 4th and the 6th round, somewhere in that range. But for my mock draft, was still here for the Carolina Panthers. And now that Ed Dickson has moved on, there's no real proven backup behind Greg Olsen. So not only is Greg Olsen near the end of the line here a little bit, but he's struggled to stay healthy the last couple seasons. So I think a guy like Troy Fumagalli can come in and be the top backup, and getting that kind of value in the 6th round for a low-key kind of position to need here for the Carolina Panthers would be an excellent get. I'm sure Norv Turner will find a way to get him involved as a rookie. Going to the 7th round, they have 2 picks. First up at 234, I'm selecting offensive guard Taylor Hearn from Clemson. Looking at the Carolina Panthers offensive line, not a lot of depth there at the guard spot. You have Trey Turner, who's pretty damn good. They have Dorian Johnson, who's from Pitt. I think he got released and bounced around a couple teams, but I thought he was a really good prospect. I don't know what they have there for a ceiling. But looking at left guard, they have, right now, according to ourlads.com, they have Greg Van Rotten, Jeremiah Searles, who exactly from the Vikings, and Zach Banner, who's more, I think, you know, still more of a tackle mold than in Garrett because he's a massive human being. So ultimately, there's not a lot of depth there at right guard behind Trey Turner. So unless they really view that they can move Taylor Moton into guard, which they could, I think Hearns, regardless, could present really, really top depth with some upside coming from Clemson, a really good program, and get a lot of starting experience there. So in the 7th round, I mean, you are taking flyers a little bit and kind of hoping you can grab some guys that can fall onto the final 53. I think Hearns has that ability to, you know, add a depth role here for the Carolina Panthers offensive line. And then finish up the draft in the 7th round with the second 7th round pick, 242, highlighting linebacker AZEEM Victor from Washington. I think he can come in and be the top will linebacker depth behind Thomas Davis because, you know, again, kind of like Julius Peppers, where you're getting younger. Linebacker core ultimately need, I think they should get a little bit more depth. Shaq Thompson is looking really good. Luke Kuechly is the best linebacker in football, but with the concussion issues and stuff like that, you know, there's a little bit of uncertainty there, and Thomas Davis is, you know, pretty much the token old man. This is a really old defense. Mike Adams is starter, he's old. Thomas Davis is old. Mary Addison's not a young pup. Julius Peppers is an old man. So get youth there. Get youth that can eventually take over, and in case of an injury or something like that, they could step in. I think AZEEM Victor would be much higher, but had some off-the-field issues. I think he got suspended near the end of the season there for Washington. I don't think if he had the off-the-field, he would definitely be much more of a mid-round pick, really productive. Washington just produces very, very talented defensemen coming into the NFL just year after year, but the best defense in the Pac-12 most consistently. So I think it's a guy like AZEEM Victor. Special teams ability can fall under the Final 53, and I think can actually challenge to be one of the top linebacker depths along with David Mayo. So there you go, guys. That is my Carolina Panthers 7-round mock draft. Let me know if you agree or disagree with any of the picks in the comment section below. You have your own Panthers mock draft, feel free to let that go. And then we can do a nice little side-by-side comparison. As always, if it's your first time stopping by, don't be afraid to hit that subscribe button, smash the like button if you enjoyed. And until next time, it's going to be C4 saying peace out.